Why do you keep fixing this car? Why?
In the last episode of the Firebird Street Build series, my friend Casey and I finished installing the rest of the new UMI suspension parts. This included removing the old A-arms and getting the unlucky opportunity to risk our lives to mess with the infamous coil springs. Well, a little bit more Casey's life. Anyway, we finished up installing the rest of the new A-arm hardware, which was then followed by a new set of KYB shocks. As I'm sure many of you know, when it comes to any project car, you'll get one step ahead and then your 80s POS box takes 10 steps back. And yeah, there is a lot of that in this episode. And to start this chain of nightmares, my first happened in the middle of winter. You could say my memory is a bit foggy on this one. I started to notice my windshield would fog up so badly that I could hardly see out of it. And it wasn't just a normal kind of condensation, there was a little bit of a film to it. I also started to notice there was a slight smell of coolant inside the car, which led me to believe my heater core was failing. And oh boy, was I right. And once I found that coolant seeping through the heater box cover, that was all the evidence I needed. And unfortunately, due to the time crunch I was under, I wasn't able to film as much as I would have liked to.
You know? I don't know if it's easy to tell, but yeah, this thing was just a little shot. So let's get the new one in there.
After about 5 hours of work, the new heater core was in. The difference was night and day. I could actually see out of the windshield again, and there was no longer a lingering smell of coolant inside the car. And I enjoyed it. But 3 weeks later... Yep, just went again. There it goes. I don't know if you guys can see that, but all over the floor. So, looks like I'll be doing a second heater core. Well, after my Firebird got done spilling its guts all over the floor, I would run to the parts store and get yet another heater core. So, I wasted no time and got right back to work, yet again.
It's kind of hard to tell, but you see that little spot that looks a little bit darker? Yeah, that's where the new heater core popped. So I just finished replacing the other one last night, and so that explains why I was getting some coolant in the floorboard, because I think most of that top layer that you see there had popped. So cool. Well, let's hope this new one holds out. If not, I'm going to definitely go with a different brand. So.
Well, after playing Pop Goes the Fire Turd for a second time, I made my way over to Casey's house, where we would change out the jets in my Holly 670 carb. The jetting was definitely way too high, which was causing the Firebird to run extremely rich, as you can tell from this photo. From the information I was able to find online, and after asking some friends of mine that were familiar with Holley carbs, I learned that my Holley 670 from the factory would have most likely came with 65 CFM jets for the primaries and 68s for the secondaries. And since I bought my carburetor secondhand, I had no idea what jetting it had, so I decided to take it apart and find out. As it would turn out, my primaries were actually 72 CFMs, which would explain why the car ran as rich as it did. And surprisingly, the secondaries were 68s as they should be. So I swapped the primaries for 65s, and then we finished putting her back together. Casey's dad also set up the carb after our work was done, and the car ran awesome. I thanked the both of them and we called it a night. After getting the jets swapped out on the carb, it wouldn't be long before the Firebird decided it had something else that it wanted replaced. Unfortunately, the car's right exhaust hanger broke off, which let my exhaust hang too low. It also scorched the top of my new Panhard bar relocation kit. The pipe was too far gone to just re-weld the bracket back on, so in the meantime I hung the exhaust up with some wire. A couple of days later, my friend Casey invited me back out to his place so that way we could fix the exhaust. And keep in mind, I will be getting a new exhaust system sometime down the road, but for the time being we decided to fix my current one. To start off, we got to work cutting the rotten piece of pipe off of the car. Once the old pipe was removed, we made a quick trip to our local auto parts store and picked up some pre-cut exhaust piping. The hardest part of this was getting the angles right. Since my Firebird is a live axle car, the exhaust has to go over the top of the axle before coming back down to the muffler. After a couple hours, we finished the exhaust. I thanked Casey for everything and we called it a night. It would be several months before I decided to tackle another item that needed attention on the car. The item in particular was the car's hood release cable, which after 38 years of use was stretched out. I also got tired of crawling on the ground underneath the bumper to pop the hood, especially while I was at car shows, which you can imagine was quite comical for most of my friends. After I replaced the hood cable, I didn't really work on the car for several months. But then a new issue began to show itself at the start of summer. My Firebird developed a crank no spark issue. It only happened a couple of times, but it quickly grew into a common problem that left me stranded on more than one occasion. I did some research and remembered my cap and rotor set had been on my engine since we installed it back in early 2020. I picked up a new set and got to work, and to make things easier for myself, I went ahead and labeled all of my spark plug wires.
This is my first time ever having to change one of these, but I think it's gonna be a good call to replace this. Now we can really see it, the lighting's kinda low, but yeah, I think they're definitely a little corroded. So yeah, I think we're gonna replace this cap and rotor here, and I think that should help the problem quite a bit, so. Well, time to run to the parts store, grab one of those.
Alright, well, as you can see, this is definitely our issue. There is a lot of corrosion on this rotor, and then all of the terminals inside the cap actually look about the same as well. So I'm definitely gonna go run to my local AutoZone, grab another one of these, and also a new cap, just because they're really inexpensive, and this should help the no start problem I've been having. So yeah.
After everything was put back together, I went ahead and tried to start the car, and I was happy when it fired right up. But this victory was short-lived because the very next day, it did it again.
Awesome.
It took me a couple of days doing research before I found a possible culprit to the car's issues. Now it can happen, but it's not common that the coil packs fail themselves. So this left another item that commonly fails on these HEI distributors, which is the ignition module itself. These apparently are the culprit in most crank no spark issues. My local auto parts stores didn't have any in stock, so I ordered a new one online. And once it got here, I went ahead and swapped it out. And I am pleased to say it worked. The car has ran great since this. I will say, despite all of the hurdles this episode, it is so nice to end on a positive, "Oh, come on!"